to the A.D.D show, where we're not always right, but we're never wrong. As always, I'm Mark.
And I'm Hans, and welcome back, everybody. It has been a little bit since you've heard from us. Again, it's the off-season. Mainly, we do a lot of NFL talking and, some other sports scattered in there. But really, the NFL is where we do a lot of our content around. So in the off-season, there's not a whole lot going on. I know Mark made the statement a few weeks ago that football has found a way to make it a 52-week season. I mean, there's always stuff happening, and every week there is. Like this week, Colin Kaepernick is trying out for the Raiders. It was almost like there was nothing going on, and then there's something. It's always something, but we wanted to do something a little bit different this week, and I had mentioned up to Mark, let's do an episode where we do our most memorable sports moments, whether we were there, whether it was at our house. We're talking upsets, heartbreaks, just, miracle on ice type things that we remember from. We didn't say our generation. We took that sentence upon it ourselves, and we both did it very differently of how we took the word heartbreak or miracles or whatever it was, and even upset. So he's going to go over some of his. I'm going to go over some of mine. I'm sure they'll be similar, especially mine, because I am younger, so mine will be more of what I've seen. He'll have probably a few more. I'm assuming that we have no idea what each other have written either. But his will be a lot more the older stuff that he remembers seeing that I know about, but I won't know as much about. So, Mark?
Yeah. I did the way I did it was I have say non-team, the teams I root for.
Yeah.
Heartbreaks, I have a few there. And then, unfortunately for me, the teams I root for, there's been a lot of
heartbreaks
moments where it's just heartbreaking. But I did go into a few other ones where watching it, I was just amazed. Yep. And it's sort of like what we talked about before the show, to give you a little hindsight, Christian said, the major upset. It's an amazing thing, mm-hmm. But on the other side, it's the absolute heartbreak.
Yep.
So on that count, it's like you see these games, and one of them for me in that aspect was in 1996, the Panthers played the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup Finals. It wasn't a close finals. Well, every game was close. The Avalanche won 4-0, okay? So it wasn't like an amazing 7-game series. 1-0, 2-1,
Yeah.
It was close all the way. The last game, game 4, 3 overtimes, okay? I was working night crew at the time. Game started at 8 o'clock. I watched the first 2 periods before I had to go to work. Went to work. I got home before the game was over and watched the end of the game. John Van Beesbroek had 55 saves. Patrick Roy had 63 saves.
That's a lot.
1-0. 1-0. And it was just like you saw the elation from the Avalanche and you saw the absolute heartbreak of Van Beesbroek and the Panthers. But every single player, one thing hockey does that I think is amazing, is after every series, mm-hmm. no matter if it's the biggest high of winning the Stanley Cup, you gather at center ice in a line and you shake hands.
Yep.
Every single Avalanche player hugged Van Beesbroek. Mm-hmm. And sat there for a minute, hugged him, and him and Patrick Roy were the last two. And they hugged and sat there for a minute or two,
Solid
just
minute.
talking. And it was like one of those moments where you're just you feel so bad for that, mm-hmm. for him, because he gave it 55 saves, everything, and 3 overtimes. He did his best to keep his team in it. And that one there was one of the ones where you're talking about, mm-hmm. where it's the highest highs. Patrick Roy, 63 saves, amazing game. Avalanche win their first Stanley Cup. And, everything. And surprisingly, the Avalanche make my list again, mm-hmm. Again in a little bit. But a couple of the ones for me, heartbreaks. There's 3 that always stand out to me and have always stood out to me because they happened when I was young. 1989, 1982, and 1986. 89 and 82 Super Bowls. Bengals were winning with 2 minutes or less in both games and lost on last minute touchdowns by the 49ers.
You could add 2021 to that too.
Yes, but
I know, I'm just messing with you.
That's on here.
Yeah.
And then Syracuse versus Indiana national championship game. Derek Coleman is at the line with 3 seconds left. to seal it. There's no 3-point line. They're up 1. He has 2 free throws. He misses both. Indiana gets the rebound, calls timeout. Pass inbounds. Keith Smart hits a jump shot over Derek Coleman to win the national championship. I am devastated. Like, it is just heartbreak city for me. I cried, everything. Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Dying at Daytona, and his son
that was on my
winning,
list.
His son winning the Daytona 500.
Yep.
Supposed to be one of the best days of his son's life.
So Junior didn't win the 500.
He didn't win it he won it the next
year.
year.
Won.
Okay,
No, he didn't win the 500. Waltrip won the 500 in the 15 Napa car. Junior won in the summer.
Waltrip and him were good friends, correct?
Yep. Junior, they were on the same team. So Dale raced for Richard Childress, but Dale also had Dale Earnhardt Incorporated that had his son, Steve Park, I think, Waltrip. So Waltrip won the race, and then Junior was second. And then they raced Daytona twice a year, the 500, and then the summer race, which is called the Coke 400 or the Coke whatever it is now. He won that race in the summer. So it wasn't the 500. I don't even know if Junior has a 500 win, but it was.
I think he does, but I'm not sure. But that moment, watching that made me cry.
Yeah, but no one knew that at the time. I mean, it was a solid half hour, 45 minutes before anybody got any sort of update.
That moment when you saw the president of NASCAR do that press conference and say that, that moment, it made me cry. Like, it made me stop in my tracks. It's one of those moments you'll never forget.
It's one of those moments where it was one of the first events I remember watching, and I didn't quite know what was going on. My parents had mentioned that, Dale Earnhardt had died. And I watched NASCAR when I was a kid, obviously. My parents did, but I didn't really pick up on it till I've watched now the replays older. I've watched what's called The Day. It's like a 6-part YouTube series about everything that happened that day. And it was on my list, but at the same time, it's I never really witnessed it till I got older. Now I can respect that. Luckily, and I say this luckily because NASCAR is still a bigger sport now. They are bringing in a bigger audience than they have the last few years, probably because COVID's now not a thing. But the fact that someone's so polarizing for their sport almost was the reason the sport didn't resume. I mean, I don't mean it that kind of way, but could you imagine how popular he was and how many fans, yes, they went back, but for about 20 years now, decline has been down. It's going up right now for the first time in about a decade, but a lot of people are saying it's because of Dale's death. Could you imagine a sport if LeBron just died today and no one went back to a basketball game?
So I think to piggyback on that, with NASCAR, one of the things is one of the greatest drivers ever, Jimmy Johnson.
Yep.
Okay? And the one thing sports fans hate is somebody that dominates.
Yeah.
Okay? They love it the first couple years.
Yep.
But then they get absolutely sick of it. Yep. And I think Jimmy Johnson winning 7 cups.
Yeah.
And it was almost in a row, wasn't it? Was it 6 in a row or something like that?
It was 4. I think was the most he did in a row. But yeah.
But all of a sudden, it was Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson. There was no parity.
And that's why a lot of the fans are mad they changed so much with the new car. But we're 16 races in and we've had 13 different winners. That's never happened.
But again,
now,
you have a younger generation. Yep. You have younger drivers, and you sort of can piggyback on, I like this driver. And NASCAR does a great job with these die casts. I'm looking over at your table over there that you have, 20 die casts on there. But they're making it so you can, and sort of be relevant.
And the other thing, before we move to the next one of the big things, too, that people don't know if they don't watch was in the last few years has been a big change. And I know a lot of fans or people who know the sport have heard the name Bubba Wallace, and a lot of the fans of the sport don't like him. Obviously, they have their reasonings, and I won't say why these fans don't like him, but one of the things he did was he brought the sport to a global attention. Whether good or bad, all publicity is good publicity. And because of that, Michael Jordan decided to buy a NASCAR and join. So he's bringing in a demographic of fan that likes Michael Jordan. Even better, now Pitbull, the rapper, has a team with a Hispanic driver. So now most of their fan base is out of Cuba and Mexico. Yeah. So they're bringing in fans. So you have a rapper and Emmitt Smith has an Xfinity car team. So you get these people from different communities and ethnicity backgrounds getting into the sport, which would have never happened 15 years ago.
Right.
Would have never happened. Yeah. So I was going to say I have one if you didn't have anything else to say.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, one of the ones I have here was in 1984. Okay. I'm a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
I grew up on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I'm a Lakers fan. I'm an Orioles fan. I'm a Syracuse Orange fan. I am a Bruins fan.
So you weren't a Boston College fan. You weren't a Patriots fan. You weren't a Celtics
and
fan.
I'm a Bengals fan. You know, so the shit that was talked to me always
It's hard.
was always there.
Sure, it was traumatic, big guy.
I had a friend growing up. When I talk about rivals, okay, like he was Brewster, I was Eastham. Okay, you have no idea what that means.
It's probably like North and South Carolina, or Easton, and it's a local rivalry.
Yeah, and I was the best in my town. Sorry, Eastham, it's the truth. Everybody knows it. When I was younger, I was the best athlete in our town. Okay, and he was the best athlete in their town. Okay,
his nose is hitting the mic right now. It's growing.
Basketball, baseball, everything. Like it was. Me for basketball,
open wheel racing, fishing.
It was, but basketball, we were at each other like all the time. And I have to say, Brewster was always better than Eastham, so he always had me at that, right? But I always took pride in the one-on-ones, striking him out, not allowing him to have a hit, scoring more points than he did, things like that. So in '84, we're combined in schools now. It's like we're a regional middle schools and high schools and stuff like that. So it's 4 towns. And the shit talk is just going. And the Lakers are playing the Celtics in the finals. Lakers are up 3-2. And this is in a time where the games weren't on at 9 o'clock at night, so kids couldn't watch.
Yeah.
This was when games were on and you could watch them. Yeah. And Saturday and Sunday, they were during the day. And so you were able to see everything. Lakers lost that series 4-3. It hurt. It hurt most going to school. But I had to suck it up, and I had to go in, and I had to take it. But it just made it when the Lakers beat the Celtics later on in a couple years, the next year, a couple of years after that, they beat them a couple more times. And it just made it that much better. But that was heartbreaking mainly because, yes, the Lakers lost. Celtics were a much better team. But going to school and hearing that from every single kid, because I didn't care. I walked through with my Lakers starter jacket on year round. I had a Lakers winter hat. I didn't care. I had those cartoon shirts with Magic, Kareem, and so it was, I was proud of it, but they would roast me, and that one hurt. That one hurt a lot. So, but I'll let you go over a couple more. I have one more that's not my team related for Heartbreak. But.
So really none of mine are my team related. I have one. I'll do that one first. It's actually involving my team. And no, I don't have Des Bryant's catch on there. So just letting y'all know.
He still didn't catch it.
He would. He did. So most of mine, like I said, aren't just team-wise or any specific reasoning behind them besides moments I won't forget. Whether it was my team, whether it was a big event, but this one is about my team, and I'm going to go to a specific year, and the year is 2007.
Okay.
So in 2007, there was a college football team ranked number 2 in the country, led by Pat White and Noel Devine, one of the greatest combinations in college football. This team was undefeated till week 12. This is an upset and a heartbreak, ladies and gentlemen. And, we went into that game as the number 2 team in the country to play in the BCS National Championship for the first time since Major Harris. So it's been a long time. And we were the Big East. We weren't in a big-time conference. No respect was ever given in a conference like that. And we went into that game, and it was called the Whiteout because it was 5.5 feet of snow. And we played, and we lost that game. Heartbreaking, missed field goal. Pat McAfee did not come through when he was supposed to come through. The team didn't come through. I mean, it was almost 20 years till 2 years ago was the first time Pat McAfee ever came back because he got death threats for years and years and years, and we fell to 3rd and didn't go to the national championship that game. Pat White never really progressed in the NFL. Noel Devine really went nowhere, and just a lot of people think since that moment the fan base has just been nothing's. Oops, sorry. We've hit the microphone. We've never really had that high since. We've never really been there, and that was like the peak of the moment. We had full capacity. Everybody was talking about us. Game day was there. It was huge, and we blew it. And it seems to always happen like that.
Who'd you lose to?
Pitt.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was about to say. Yep.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
it makes it even worse.
It was a 3-9 Pitt team. They were terrible. The only win they had was against James Madison, pretty much. They were bad, and we knew it. And this year, we opened the season against them at Heinz Field in the 15-year reunion since that game. And the score was like 13-9 or whatever it was. And our players troll Pitt, even though we haven't played for years. They know it's a rivalry, even though none of them were really alive when it happened. Mm-hmm. Their head coach, Pat Narduzzi, I think is his name, or something like that, he posted a picture saying, we can't wait to get there, we can't wait to play, and the two helmets of the players walking out of the tunnel for Pitt was number 13 and number 9 on the back of the helmet. And I was like, oh, they trolling us. They trolling us. Okay, so they're building up to this Thursday primetime first week game, and they have the crazy Heisman that they just left for Pickett, Heisman potential. They just got in Slovis from USC. We just got JT Daniels. So now you have two top Heisman contending quarterbacks now in the first week of the season. And I hope it goes well. But that one for me is personal and really upsets me because I'm a huge Pat McAfee fan. It was not his fault. Things happen, but they did not let that go. Did not. And I'll do one more, but this one's not personal. But something that I want to get your opinion on was let's do one on my list. Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 2019. Coming back after all those years. It was 2019, right? Or 2020? Yep. Coming back after the few years being out. No one would have thought he was going to win, and he just came back and won the Masters. And
that one was so amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to describe because the complete, absolute downfall of Tiger Woods.
His personal life, his mental health.
And people just absolutely wrote him off. Like, he's done. Like, his body is shut down. I'm one of them. Like, I never thought I'd see Tiger Woods play. And that was absolutely amazing because as a fan of golf, okay, I am a fan of golf because I grew up watching golf every Sunday with my dad. No matter what tournament it was, golf was on. And when it was golf time, golf was on Sundays. And I would watch every Sunday. I would sit down with my dad and I'd watch some of the golf. And I remember watching all the tournaments. Like Father's Day is one of those big ones where I will sit down and I'll watch a few holes still to this day. Just because it brings me to closer to my dad who's been gone for 18 years. But it was so amazing to watch. And
the energy.
I was just going to say the fans. The fans were there. And they were active. They were loud. And Tiger, usually in his prime, was like standoffish with the fans. As he got older and he saw that his time is up almost as an athlete, he started embracing the fans. He started signing more autographs and waving and shaking hands. And just to see him do that was absolutely amazing. One of those things where it's sort of like you'll remember for forever. And I'm glad you have that on your list because I didn't have that on my list.
There's going to be a lot that I'm going to have that you may have that you're going to be like, I wish I thought of that.
Exactly, because I thought I took this as things that, and there's a couple on here like Mike Brennan. We've mentioned him on the show before. He's been on the show. I put on Facebook, hey, let me know. See if anybody would comment. And Mike put a couple on there that, again, not as a fan, but just being friends with fans. The absolute heartache on their face when it happened. And Bill Buckner letting the ball go through his legs in Game 6, the final out to win the World Series. Buckner was a solid first baseman, never made errors. The ball went right through his legs. Game 6, the Red Sox were up 3-2. They had a chance in Game 7, but that took the air out of him, the life out of him. And for me to see my friends, like people in Boston until 2004, F Bill Buckner. Don't mention Bill Buckner's name. Like, if you ever said like you were playing wiffle ball and somebody let a ball go through his legs, man, you Bucknered it.
And is that where that comes from?
And they would get so pissed.
I can't lie, from here I've heard that term in was it kickball maybe? Somebody used to use that term when I was younger. You actually just threw back an old court memory. That must be where that comes from because I don't know these memories. I wasn't alive, really.
And so, like, any fan of baseball knows the curse of the Bambino.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
86 years. It took 86 years to get rid of it, but it could have been in 1986. That team was so good, too. Like, I can name names on that team, and you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
Before steroid Clemens.
Yeah, big difference.
But the heartbreak there. But then also on my list is a moment that he mentioned was the 2004 Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from 3-0. No teams ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in sports.
In all sports?
In all of sports.
I thought it was just baseball.
Until the Red Sox did it in 2004 against their arch rival Yankees. And when I tell you game 3 of that series, the Red Sox lost 19-6. 19-6. And you come back and every single player on the Red Sox said, don't let us win tomorrow. Don't let us win tomorrow. And it went into extra innings. It was a miracle. Like Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer in baseball history,
pretty much,
is on the mound, walks a guy, pinch runner, steals second, base hit up the middle, ties the game. 4 innings later, David Ortiz hits a home run. The announcer, Joe Buck, who I like as a baseball announcer, went nuts. We'll see you tonight, because the game was like 2 o'clock in the morning when it happened. Again, extra innings, David Ortiz, pop-up single, bloop single, guy scores 3-2. Boom, third game, they come back. And just watching my friends, like, you couldn't help but root for that Red Sox team. Like, one, I hated the Yankees. Mm-hmm. I hate the Yankees. I hate the Yankees more than I hate the Red Sox. Okay, but that team was so lovable, that Red Sox team. You had it. They called themselves the lovable idiots. And they were, because they were just so much fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And just to watch the guts, the heart, everything, and watch a sports town that bleeds their teams. And they do. Like, mm-hmm. Boston, they are
Boston's one of the most diehard fan bases besides probably Philly.
But I would put them up there with Philly.
Oh, that's what I meant. I'm putting them up there, yeah.
And diehard. Like, diehard. They live and breathe every game.
They're the kind of people that if you walk through with any other uniform on, they're calling you names across the street.
Yes.
You might want to get in your car.
And, and to watch the jubilation, the tears, the everything was just so amazing. It gave me chills watching that. Mm-hmm. And obviously New England kind of blew up in the 2000s. You have the Patriots. Red Sox won 3 World Series. The Bruins won a Stanley Cup. Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. So it kind of got annoying. But in 2004, the nation loved the Red Sox. And they loved that team. And just to watch my friends and the excitement in their faces and everything was amazing to me.
So I have another one.
Yeah.
Well, let's get that to go away. My phone turned off. So this is another college football one, but I think it's memorable for everybody. The kick 6 against Bama. The Auburn game. Yep. So the reason why I picked that one is another one that I remember. Clearly, these are a little bit newer because I am younger than Mark, but that one I remember watching one of the biggest games of the year, and my first thought was, why is Bama kicking this field goal? It was almost 60 yards. You are not Justin Tucker. And it landed inches from out of bounds. And this dude ran it back, and the only thing I can remember is, Auburn's going to win the football game. The announcer, I don't remember who it was at the time, but that one sticks with me as how incredible it was for Auburn, and it didn't really matter, but how absolutely heartbroken Bama had to have been from that game, because it literally changed the rest of the season into the playoffs and everything.
Yeah.
And just to think about that, like, I've never seen a kick 6 before, as they called it. It was the first time I've seen something like that. And
I think Odell did it one year. I can't remember if it was after that kick, but I know I know Odell's done it. Did it in college for LSU.
That one I know isn't a huge memory, but like for me, it's something that I remember where I was like everything on my list. Pretty much, I remember exactly where I was. It like imprints in your brain, and I remember watching it, and my jaw was on the floor, and I was like, "Don't tackle him! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going!" Because it was one of those moments where you, again,
you just can't believe what you're watching, and you're not a fan
No.
of Auburn, but you're cheering.
Well, most people were cheering for Auburn because it's a lot like Boston was. Boston was really good. The Patriots really good. You rooted against them.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody went in that game besides Bama fans going, Auburn's going to win this game, and they got to win this game. And you don't have to be a college football fan, but when the Iron Bowl is on, you watch.
Yeah.
When the Rose Bowl was on back in the day, you watched.
Oh, yeah. Like when
the
I was
Cotton Bowl
like,
was on.
When I was a kid, you knew what these games were.
Yep.
Because
when Miami played Florida State, you watched. When Notre Dame played Miami, you watched. And so when the Iron Bowl's played, I don't care if both teams have 4 wins. It's just like Duke, UNC, and basketball. You don't care the record. Mm-hmm. You watch it because it's going to leave a mark in history somewhere. Yeah. It always does.
Now one of mine is neither team. I hate the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that. I mean, they're in the North, AFC North, so I hate the Steelers. I've always hated the Steelers. I was always a Larry Fitzgerald fan. Mm-hmm. Always. And when the Cardinals made that Super Bowl run and they got to the Super Bowl, so that game was a dud of a game until the fourth quarter, where I believe Harrison had a 100-yard pick six. Mm-hmm. And then
I do remember this game.
And then it was like the Cardinals are down, they're going to lose. Larry Fitzgerald breaks a tackle and runs, I don't even know how many yards, scores the touchdown, which everybody thought was the game-winning touchdown. And I mean it. Like, people were like, oh, Fitzgerald's going to win it. Fitzgerald's going to win it. Like, this is amazing. And he scored the touchdown to win it. And then Ben Roethlisberger to Santonio Holmes in one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life.
And, of course, this happened before the 2011 catch for the Giants.
Yeah, 2010.
2010, yeah.
Catching it. But I would even put that Santonio Holmes catch over that David Tyree catch.
Yeah.
Like that.
David Tyree, yep.
An amazing catch.
Yeah.
And it is just, you see Kurt Warner and you see Larry Fitzgerald, the life just drain out of them.
And it's not like some sports where it slowly changes, right? Like you mentioned the Boston thing. It's not just like it wasn't a walk-off home run to end game 7. You see it building, right? Like the Auburn kick 6, done. Ray Allen's three-pointer. Yes. Those are the ones you go, and it takes your breath away.
Yes.
What you're explaining right there, that is a breathtaking moment, and it changes everything.
Yes.
So that's why I like the quick ones.
So you just brought up an amazing moment.
It's on my list. Yep.
Well, I don't know if you're going to say the same thing I am here. It was Lakers versus San Antonio.
No.
Playoffs. It's 3-2. Mm-hmm. Lakers are down. Tim Duncan hits a shot with 0.4 seconds left to put them up 1. 0.4 seconds. Do you know how long it takes to put a quick shot up in the NBA?
It's like 0.6 or 0.5.
It's 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 0.4 seconds. Lakers throw it in to Derek Fisher. They call a timeout. They get the ball at half court. Boom. Derek Fisher comes off a screen. Pass comes into him. He
Damian
barely
Lillard
touches
style.
it. Nails it. Swish. Nothing but net. Running off the court. One of the greatest shots I've ever seen in my life, and I went bananas. Like that
especially because where it mattered. Like I remember Ray Allen's shot, Damian Lillard's a few years ago.
Yes,
that was an incredible shot
That one was
too.
incredible.
Didn't a few years back too? Didn't Kawhi Leonard have a big one for Toronto in like game
against
4?
the Sixers? And in the corner there, that totally decapitated
I remember the
Sixers.
Ray Allen one because I've always been a Wizards fan, but I've always rooted for LeBron. Just like if you weren't a Lakers fan, most people did want to see success out of Kobe, or they did want to see it out of these other players like MJ and stuff like that. But for me, I rooted for LeBron in those years. Like I rooted for Miami, even though I was a Wizards fan. I didn't have a rivalry like that. Like I felt like in basketball, I could root for 2 teams in the same conference. But watching, for me, one of the other ones I have on my list was Mavs beating the 2011 Heat. It wasn't really an upset. I mean, it was a huge upset, but what I mean, it wasn't that one shot. It was over. It was just like, you didn't expect this because the 2011 Heat, I still think were better than the 2012 Heat. I think that team was stacked, and they lost to one guy. I mean, they really lost to Dirk Nowitzki. That was really the only thing.
Yep.
And then on that, I also have another basketball one, and that is I remember exactly where I was with Cavaliers beating the 73-win Warriors.
Okay.
That was a big moment. Again, it wasn't a hit moment. It wasn't one shot, but it was slowly coming back from that deficit. Pretty much LeBron alone practically taking over.
Kyrie hit the game winner.
Yep. But they had a lot of injuries on that team, and they made it back to, again, a 73-win team technically was the best team in history, essentially by record. I mean, I think there's, 96 Bulls would probably beat that team, but like that kind of is heartbreak for the Warriors, who they were on top of the world. But at the same time, you just got beat by the one team you didn't think would beat you. Yeah. And LeBron did it in that moment again. So, to me, those are a couple more. And I have a few more, but I'll let you go again.
Well, I was just going to bring up Nate and Logan both commented also. Thank you guys, by the way. But Nate, his is one where people say this is where the Redskins went downhill.
Yep.
And
we can say Redskins because they were that name at the time.
2012, when RG3 hurt his leg after a 7-game win streak to win the division.
Yep.
And tried to play on a hurt leg in
I was
playoffs.
Even rooting for RG3. I thought he was special.
And that, the Redskins, Commanders, Washington football team, they haven't been the same since. No. And Logan said... Most heartbreaking sports moments for me is just being a DC sports fan in general.
Yeah,
I understand, being a Bengals fan. But he said the most amazing thing for him was watching Ovi and the Capitals win and hold the cup up. And he says still watching the highlights and that moment still to this day gives him chills.
So I always like that, the Ovi holding the cup, because I actually had the blessing to get to go to Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
My stepdad had...
They won that game, too,
They did. They won the one I went to. Yep. I think it started 0-1, and I think they won the next 2 or 3 straight. But it was Game 2 or 3, I can't remember, but it was at Capital One Arena. And I remember my stepdad saying, when tickets go live, we're going to have to buy them, but I can only buy like a minimum of so many. So he ordered twice by accident, ordered 20 tickets. So he had to sell them. He's like, do you want to go? I was like, dude, I don't have $800 for tickets. He's like... all right, this one time I'll take you. And it was worth every moment of getting to go to that game. It was, I had never been to a hockey game before, ever. So my first hockey game was Game 2 or 3, I can't remember which one, of the Stanley Cup Finals for Washington. Yes. Getting to watch the Great Eight make 2 shots in that game, it was bananas. Like, my best live sports moment I ever witnessed was probably that game.
Okay.
And I had never been to a hockey game before, and it probably would be my favorite live sporting event over college football right now. And I only got to go to one, and I've been to over 100 West Virginia games.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely amazing.
That's what,
and the temperature was great. That was my favorite. I didn't sweat. It was nice and chilly in there.
Hockey to me, not to,
no, you're good.
Go off the rails here, but hockey to me is one of those sports when you watch it live, you fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with hockey when I saw it live and I saw a Bruins game for the first time. So to piggyback on hockey here, one thing that gave me chills is being a Bruins fan my whole life. I watched Ray Bourque.
Yep.
Okay.
I know who that is. Yep.
If you know who he is, but you didn't get to see him play.
I know the name. Yep.
You were alive when he won the cup and everything. But what I'm saying is how dominant this man was and how good the Bruins teams were, but never got over the hump. Finally, he's played 21 years. His 22nd year, they trade him away because they want him to win the cup. And they trade him to a stacked Avalanche team. Okay, I mean, Joe Sakic, do you remember that name?
Yep.
Patrick Roy was still the goalie.
We know that name.
And they trade him away, and Bourque was still good. And even though Sakic and Roy were on the team, and Sakic won the MVP and everything, they gave the cup to Ray Bourque first. They said, "You here."
Yeah.
And he got the cup from Bettman, and he raised it up over his head, and it still gives me chills.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those feel-good moments where you root for it. Like, no matter who you are, when you have a guy that's been close and a stand-up great player all the time, like, you root for that person to win.
Yeah.
And he won. And when he raised the cup, it just, all of Boston was just, they didn't care
that's one of those,
he won it with somebody else. They were just so happy.
In a football way, I wouldn't say always winning, but that's one of the things with, like, for example, I'll bring up 3 players I can think of off the top of my head, like Matthew Stafford, right? One of those where everybody rooted for him in that game. I know you're a Bengals fan, but everybody wanted to see him win. Or you can even do Larry Fitzgerald. Everybody wants to see him win a ring. Jason Witten, another player like that. Everybody wanted to see these great men from sports win it. And you're talking about a guy who was at a top of his level. I mean, we're talking top 3 most of his career in the sport, and never got it done, and got to go to another team and finally win that ring.
Yes.
I assume they get rings in hockey too, right? So
Yeah.
I thought so. So like, I didn't witness it. I don't know much about that event. Obviously, it's a different time than I was watching. But like, to imagine that moment of all the fans that rooted for him going, "We're happy for you." Like the Lions fans, I'd love to know how they felt when Matthew Stafford won it. They're mad they wasted this man's career. But to get to see him finally do it, a little piece of them probably got goosebumps watching it. Well, I know you were on a different side of it, but
for me, like watching Corey Dillon win the Super Bowl with the Patriots. That to me was amazing because I loved Corey Dillon and I was happy. Like I was pissed the way he left. But I was so happy that he won. Because he deserved it.
One of the moments that I had was actually in my moments of watching sports, and one of the times I watched the most was DeMarcus Ware going to the Broncos and finally getting that ring. I said, take Jason Witten with you. I was hoping he could get it too because he deserved it too. And like DeMarcus Ware coming back, retiring for the one day, but like you are with Corey Dillon, like DeMarcus Ware was my dude. Like I had multiple 94 jerseys. It was the number I played football in middle school with. And so that was one of those big moments. So I have another one. This one is not really, I don't really know. It's kind of not aged well because we've had a lot of things happen since this, but Kobe's last game, the 60-point game.
Okay.
I think everybody tuned in to watch that. And I think most people know he didn't actually score 60 points. Everybody gave him the ball. So he obviously had the ball in his hand more than anybody. He took 80 shots or something crazy. I get that. But everybody watched this man who Father Time had caught up to him. Everybody knew he was 4 years past prime, 2 or 3 years. Those Lakers teams weren't really that great in the last few years. He had overcome an Achilles tear. He had overcome all this stuff. He had legal issues in the news too going on. And to see him put up 60 points in his last game, the whole Mamba out thing was incredible. I remember that. It's obviously not the same without him here, but that was an incredible moment.
Yeah, but again, one of those heartbreaking things is the day he died.
Exactly.
Janine, like when I say Janine doesn't understand my passion for sports and my passion for players, like she's like, why? Like you didn't even know him. Why are you crying? Like, and I explained to her, she's like, I get it, but like,
it's everything that's not on the court. It's everything else about that person.
And it's just the memories and, the
some of your best memories were sitting on the couch with your buddies and a beer watching Kobe play.
Yeah.
Like, you remember those. So when Kobe isn't here, you're like, those memories, like we watched Kobe, like we would always point at the team, like if I had a player, I'd be Kobe. If I was this, I'd be MJ. Like you used to pick players like they were you. Yeah. You want to shoot like them. When you went out to the courts the next day after a basketball game, the Lakers are playing, you're like, watch this, I'm Kobe. And you did it. So, like, it's not the same anymore. Yeah. It hits you differently.
One moment, 1983, again.
It's okay. That's why I think this is interesting.
This was when I fell in love with baseball. Because the Orioles were good in late 70s, early 80s, but they never, they won a title, but they were, were good, but never got there. And then the 83 Cal Ripken comes up. And from that moment on, he never missed a game until he broke the record. And, I think 6 or 7 games after he finally sat. But 83 World Series where the Orioles won, I fell in love with baseball. And that was the moment I fell in love with baseball. I was an Orioles fan, so obviously seeing your team win. But at the same time, it made me fall in love with baseball because I watched it. And I played baseball, but I believe just watching it with, people in them just watching and learning, it made me fall in love with the game. It made me fall in love with baseball. So that moment there is very personal, and it's just like Syracuse is on my heartbreak. And in 2003, when they finally got Boeheim his championship and they beat Kansas and, Peter Warwick running out to the 3-point line to block the shot on the Kansas player and Syracuse winning the game. That moment there was just so amazing for me. Like it's hard to explain because Syracuse made Final Fours after the 86 season, but never made it to the finals. They made it to the finals. Carmelo Anthony was, an unbelievable freshman, but that whole team was pretty much freshmen. Peter Warwick, John McNamara. They had another guard that was really good, but he was a veteran guard. And they played so well all year, and they just grew in the finals. And it was just that moment there was amazing to watch.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off of your, I forgot what you had said. You said live sport had changed it. It was like baseball, like the moment that changed it for you. So something that happened to me recently was in the last few years is I had always watched racing in general, and I had finally gotten the chance to actually go. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, you got to go. You're going to enjoy it. But watching it on TV for the last 5 years, because I wanted something new to watch, and getting back into it from like when I was a kid and finding a driver, not knowing any of the names but like two because they're still around, and actually finally getting to go to a race and watching what happens on TV versus in person has changed the way I watch now. I was like, man, I really like this. But now on Sundays, I'm like, screw everything else. Now I want to watch because now I understand. I now know what they sound like in person, not just on TV. So like same thing with the hockey. Once I went to the Capitals game, now I try to watch as much hockey as I can. They come on late at night a lot, and it's like weird times on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I'm always busy on those nights. But like, it makes you want to watch it. And baseball, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I will root for the Orioles usually when they're good, and that sounds terrible, but going to baseball games doesn't change the way I feel about baseball. But baseball is one of those sports that is one of those team sports where if they're playing good, I want to watch. Like I can't promise I'm going to watch the Caps if they're the worst team in the league. Or the Orioles.
I could go to a hockey game. I can go to a basketball game. I can go to a football game.
And it doesn't have to be our teams.
And I will not feel the way I feel when I walk on into a baseball stadium. Walking up the tunnel, seeing the bases and the grass, it just does something.
Because you played on it, so you kind of get that vibe.
You know, and it brings me back to when I first saw my first game at Fenway Park. My dad bought tickets, and just walking up and just the grass is never greener. Now, you know, and I know like even football stadiums, the grass isn't as green on a football stadium as it is on a baseball field. You know, and just seeing the park. And I remember when I first started dating Janine, I had moved over here, and I wanted for her birthday, the Orioles were at home. I don't even know if you remember. We all went to a game.
I remember the game.
Kiana,
we got
Austin.
food at the Inner Harbor. Pitcher.
And we went to a game. It was miserable weather. It was misting the whole day, and it was cold. But for me, and this was before Janine and I got married, but it was my family. It was the first time I brought my family to a game since I was a little kid, and my family went
to a game.
And so that day still is very special to me. But I still remember, like, you guys were all talking, and I'm watching every pitch. I'm watching every and I'm just in tune in the game. I'm barely talking to you guys and everything. But it was, to me, that day still sticks out as one of those days that's very special to me. We haven't done it since because, one, it's way too freaking expensive. To get 5 tickets, now 6 with Xander to an Orioles game. Now, I would love to take Xander when he's a little bit older. Shorebirds or something like that. And
that's one of the things, too. I went to, like I said, I have a book at my house of probably 100+ tickets for West Virginia, not just at home. Like, I've seen a West Virginia football game at UConn. Me and my stepdad, we've been to the Syracuse Dome. We've been to Terrapins. We've been to Virginia Tech. We've been to Pitt multiple times to Heinz Field. And, like, one of my favorite memories, I remember the game. It was a horrible loss in overtime. Geno Smith lost the game. He threw an interception. It was terrible. But I remember the game against Texas Christian, so TCU, and it was Kiana's first game ever going. And she's like, wow, the planes, look at them out of the tunnel with the flag, and the band makes the state. And the whole time I'm like looking for Geno and the players, like in binoculars. And I'm like looking around. I was like, the temperature feels good. No wind for the pocket passer we have. Okay. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, this is my place. Like, I haven't been there in a few years, but, like, I can't wait. Like, I know she got to go to the race with me. But, like, when he gets a little older, I can't wait to take him to feel the seats shake you when the cars go by. Or to a West Virginia game to get to hear and sing with 60,000 people when you win, which in those years in the Big East, we won a lot. I mean, we were literally dubbed Touchdown City for 20 years because we scored so many points. Again, Big East competition. But, like, she got to understand what it was like to lose a game, but we scored 60 points that day. It was like 1,000 yards of passing in that game. And she was like, this is incredible. And I can't wait to take him to see the smoke and get to sing Country Roads with 60,000 people. And me in tears, not knowing. He's like, why are you even crying, Dad? I'm like, you don't get it. Like, my first event here was with my dad. My dad. So, like, your place is football, is golf with your dad, or the baseball games. Like mine's college football, because we went to all of them. We went to all 6 home games. West Virginia's a 4-hour drive, so my dad had weekend custody of me. So every other weekend I went to my dad's, and most schedules were every other. And my mom was cool about it. If the first 6 weeks are all home, take him. And we used to go every weekend. We used to stop at the same rest stop. So I was used to it 100 times. Got the same food. We stopped at the same store next to the stadium, and I got a T-shirt every year, and I still have all of them. It's just those memories where I can't wait to take him. And he goes, "It's just a football stadium. Why are you kissing that lump of coal everyone else has kissed? You don't get it, son. Yeah. You don't get it till you get older." And I think Zan will be good with that with baseball too. Like, I love the Orioles. I love going to the Orioles, but I'm not a fan of it on TV. I want to go and watch it, even if it's the Shorebirds. Walking out to any live event, the 2 big ones I remember is the first time walking out on the Caps ice. I'd never been to a hockey game, and I was like, "It's cold in here," and I was like, and crap, it is loud.
Yes.
Way louder than I thought. And the same thing with, I've driven past Dover's Raceway for decades, my whole life. And I was like, I know they race there. I watch it race there, but I don't know what it's like. I've raced in video games there, which is pretty accurate. And I walked out of the tunnel, and I see all these cars lined up and just speakers and fireworks. And I was like, this is way cooler than they make it seem. And I can't wait to experience those live events with him, because I think that's where sports are made. Yeah, I think that's where sports are made, is when you take someone to a sport. I think like ESPN might advertise, take a kid to a sport type thing and carry it on with them and let them carry it on.
Yeah. Orioles do a on Sundays, kid run the bases free.
Yep, I saw that. Yep.
You know, that's always something. Now, last for me, there's a couple. So I'm going to say 2 real quick, and then
I got a couple more too.
Another one, you know, but Monday Night Football, Brett Favre, the day after his dad died. This man went 22 of 30 for 399 yards and 4 TDs. Like, he was throwing moonshots, like just closing his eyes and throwing it, and it was landing in the wide. I mean, it was just, but the emotion, you know, and I mean, God forbid anybody that listens, if you've lost a parent, like, it hurts.
Yep. I can imagine.
But, like, if you know, and you expect it. Like, as you grow up, you know, there's death. I mean, obviously, as you get older, there's death. Losing a parent never gets easy. And I know parents are supposed to go before their kids, right? Doesn't make it easy.
No.
But this man went out on a big stage and just absolutely put his heart and soul out there. And you saw how emotionally tired he was after the game, how exhausted he was, because he had to put it all on the field. Like, every ounce of energy he had to try to even block half of it out. You know what I mean? And his wife, his mother, his brother, I think it was his brother or his sister, said, "Your dad wants you to play.
Yeah.
Like, you need to play."
Athletes play. That's what they do.
And he went out and played, and I remember just it brought tears to my eyes just watching, because and afterwards when he couldn't even speak, like, and the players are just holding him up, walking him off the field, and it's like that to me was just so, like, just emotional and heartwarming and just special, that it just, and I know other athletes have done things like that, but I watched that one. Yeah. And it was just so amazing to me to watch that.
I think, going off of the death here, I think I'll use, you saying that brought up 2 things that aren't quite like what you're saying with Brett Favre, but it's 2 things that I always remember when they happen. And I'll start with the first one, and it's, one of the ones is I'm going to use Dak Prescott for an example, because it reminded me of this moment. There was a bunch of videos that came out when he was drafted of him saying, when he was like 13 years old, "I'm going to be a Dallas Cowboy." And then he played this video, and it was like, with the first pick, the Dallas Cowboy, whatever pick they had, it was like 2 that year or whatever it was. He's like, select, and he was like, "Dak Prescott." And his mom was like, "You're going to be a Cowboy." And she died of cancer while he was in college. And every game he always does the cross and points up. And I remember the very first game of the first season he was a rookie was against the Giants. And I remember Zeke had like 100 yards, and everybody was like, their first-round rookie running back, their 4th-round rookie wide receiver. This is crazy. And he got his first touchdown pass, and he was in tears because he just wanted his mom to see him play that he actually became a cowboy. And I don't know if there's like a backstory weird family where like Jerry Jones knew that, like we got to get him, we got to make this hype. Like people always think like, did that really happen? But like you watch the videos, or the other one here, I was looking at it. One of the die-cast cards I have here was my driver only has 2 wins in the big series because he's not on a big team and he's not as great as others, but I will always root for him. But his his first career win was at Darlington, or his second. I don't remember which one it was, but it was at Darlington. And every year for Darlington, they run a throwback race. So everybody will throw back to another car, usually based off of the same number or based off of the same team. So if you run the number 5 car, you'll throw back to number 5 from the 60s. Or my driver's now with Richard Petty, so they'll throw back to a Richard Petty car. But the one I have here, this black and white, the black and red sports slip car, was actually spray painted from the same exact car my driver ran when he was 14 in local track racing with his dad. And when he was 18, they ran that same color up until the day his dad died. And his dad died when he was in the truck series. So he was like 18 racing for Kyle Busch Motorsports. And he used that paint scheme all throughout the minor league levels. And so when they came back, he was now he was a second year driver. He finally got his chance where he was in first place. And we're not talking Daytona where anyone can win Daytona. This was a track where big boys win. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy track. And he won it in Victory Lane. He spun around the car, and it happened to be the exact race. He was donating money that weekend to the Melanoma Foundation. His dad died of cancer, and had his dad's name above the door too, and happened to win in Victory Lane. So when you said the Brett Favre thing, I immediately thought it was like how coincidental it is that in sports you get these moments where you're like, this driver or this athlete, they just lost a loved one, and they go out and they always put a beyond effort in it. It makes you wonder, someone's helping them to that.
Yes.
And obviously he used that paint scheme like 6 years after his dad died. But like, it's just the thought process. He was like, me and my dad painted this with spray cans and stencils. So he wanted to look as close as he could. And people are like, why would you throw back to yourself? You're 20. Like, he's like, but it doesn't matter. And they happened to win that race. So do you have any others? I have like 2 or 3 more, but I want to see what else you got.
Mine is honestly the best I've felt in sports in a long, long time was this playoff run by the Bengals. Mm-hmm. Okay, it ended in heartbreak.
Yeah,
okay, it did. I didn't mention it in the Heartbreaks when I said the Bengals Super Bowls and stuff.
It's okay. We know it's top. I get it.
The run they made, one against the Raiders, one against the Titans, one in overtime against the Chiefs. The game against the Raiders sticks out the most because they hadn't won a playoff game in 30 years since 1989. So is that even 30? You can do the math. 1989 was the last time they won.
32 years.
32 years. They've been to the playoffs and couldn't win under Marvin Lewis. They're at home. They're against the Raiders. 63,000 fans in the stadium. Place is rocking. They're up 26-19. Ball's on the 10-yard line inside the 10. Raiders have the ball with 17 seconds left. And they throw a pick. And I've never in my life...
Because weren't you always on the other side of that?
Yes, I think if you go back to our texts, I was like, I can't believe the Bengals are blowing this. I can't believe they're going to blow it. The game's over, blah, blah, blah. They're like, Mark, they're up 7. Even if they score here, the game's not over. And I'm like, nope, the game's over. This sucks. And 32 years. Now, you've been a fan of the Cowboys since the day you were born, pretty much.
Pretty much. I grew up in a family. My first game was 04, so that was the first one I remember.
You don't know 32 years yet. No. You're not even 32 years old.
No.
Okay? 32 years. And the thing that hit my heart the most, one, I jumped up and I was screaming, I was yelling.
To be fair, we're halfway. We're at 18 years I've been a fan. We've been just as bad as your 32 were. Yes. I mean, let's be fair. Dallas has been really bad since I've been a fan.
Yes. But I have... and just seeing that, I cried, and it was just amazing. But then just watching, sitting down and it being in shock, to be completely honest with you, but watching the fans, watching the players, watching what it meant to that stadium of 63,000 strong winning. And you had kids with their parents.
Yeah.
Where the kids aren't even are 30-something years old.
The parents remember 89.
Yes, but they don't remember. All they remember is losing.
Yeah.
And all they remember is heartache.
Yeah.
And for them to experience it with their parents.
To taste that victory.
To taste it and just the tears in grown-ass adults.
And
the city just coming alive. And then the next week, pick when they're tied. The Titans are driving. I don't think people remember that. Titans were about to
all your playoff games were close.
Yes, they threw a pick on the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
With 50 seconds left. The game was tied. There's no guarantee the Bengals are going to get in field goal range. Then, Burrow and Chase just wide open, and they kick the field goal. And then after the Chiefs beat the Bills in overtime, getting the ball first, the Bengals were getting destroyed in the first half, come back in the second half. It's a tie game, and the Chiefs get the coin flip for overtime. Your heart sinks. I don't care who you are. Your heart sinks and think they just did it to a better team last week.
Yeah.
Damn. We couldn't get the coin flip. And then he throws a pick, and the Bengals go down. They kick a field goal, and they go to the Super Bowl. Now, turnaround comes fair play. He's sacked. Chase is wide open for the touchdown to win the game and everything. But, the Bengals lose the Super Bowl. But for me, that emotional run we had in those playoffs was just, it was so much joy for me.
That even if it doesn't happen again, it was worth it.
It was.
Because football's hard.
But you want, obviously I wanted the Super Bowl, obviously. But looking back on it, I'm even watching clips on Facebook of the games, and it's bringing back, I'm just watching, I'm like, this was awesome. And it's it's one of those things where I got to experience it as an adult, because as a kid, 88, I was 13.
Yeah.
88, 89. I was 13 years old. I was 12 years old.
You spent a majority of your life feeling like you were the Browns, or and I know we have a few playoff wins, but like Dallas, DC, the Lions, these teams have just been. We had more
number one picks than we had playoff appearances in my life. From 89 on. And that's not an exaggeration. I believe that's the truth.
It probably is.
And it's just one of those things where, if you or Nate and Logan and, Chandler, and if you guys can experience that is just so, it's something you'll never forget. And especially as an adult, because as a kid, you might not think it's going to last forever. Yeah. It's going to happen again. We're going to be there next year. I know the Bengals could go 6-11 this year. Yeah. And not even be that good.
Could
and everything.
Very well happen. It has happened. Falcons fell off.
Yeah. And I don't think they will, to be completely honest.
I don't think they will either.
It's just one of those things where I enjoyed it as it was happening, and it was just so enjoyable for me. And that one, for great moments, it was a great month. Yeah. For me, even the 2 weeks and even the Super Bowl. Even though we lost, it was still great. I got to watch football. It. And the sad thing is as iconic as the Cowboys and Washington are, you guys have never seen a Super Bowl. You've only seen, I think, one playoff win. Both fan groups have only seen one playoff win, I think, in your...
Dak had a playoff win, and Romo had two, I think.
I don't think Romo won a playoff game.
I think they won the one playoff game, then the second one they lost to Green Bay with that catch. Because everybody would joke how they were going to go all the way if they would have beaten Green Bay. I think they got that win. I think it was against the 49ers.
But it's for any fan to experience that after years of just bleeding your team, it's something that is just you have to enjoy it while it's happening.
Yeah,
last one is the 28-3.
So what I was going to mention, I have a few honorable mentions. Okay. And the 28-3 Falcons was going to be in that, where I remember where we were. We were at my stepdad's house watching the game, and you aren't a Patriots fan, but you did grow up in the area, so you'll root for the Patriots if they're on. And you were the only one there, and you knew you were going to be the only one there. And we're all like, yeah, Mark, yeah, this, yeah, that. And we're like 28-3. We're like, but the Patriots suck. Tom Brady sucks. You know how it is with Tom Brady because, it's a lot like Jimmy Johnson was like, right? Or any other athlete in a sport where, like, you're the best at the time. Everybody just wanted to see him fail. And then I was like, they scored 7. And then they scored again. I was like, oh, boy, here we go. And they finally made the comeback. One of my other ones was Malcolm Butler's interception when Seattle should have just ran the ball in the Seattle Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl when Marshawn Lynch didn't get to run the ball and they threw the interception in the end zone. That's one of my honorable mentions is a moment I'll remember when I was like, what are you doing, Seattle? I also have, this one's an odd one, but the UMBC Retriever 16 seed beating a 1. I do remember that.
Yep.
That was iconic. That will probably never, it'll be a long time before something like that happens again. Yep. And then another honorable mention I have is Michael Phelps' entire career.
Okay.
It's not a one thing, but it happened over 4 different Olympics to be the greatest Olympian to live.
Yeah.
In gold medal wise, not total medals, but gold medals.
No, total medals.
I feel like he totaled 2, doesn't he? I know there's a few getting close, but like the greatest Olympian to live. We had never seen anybody. The very first time I remember watching him swim, I think was the 2008 Olympics maybe, or maybe it was 2004. I can't remember, but he was unstoppable. We're talking leagues, 4 or 5 human lengths in front of people, like Usain Bolt's 1 or 2 times. But we're talking, this man did this for 5 Olympics.
Yep.
Just dominated the competition. Yes, there was some scrutiny involved, but like nobody was better than Michael Phelps. So every time the Olympics went on, I think people like him bring in viewers to the Olympics. Yeah. And this year there really wasn't those people, so no one really tuned in. If you get that Olympian, I think it changes. And then I have the Philly special on here also. From Philadelphia beating what I did not expect that play to happen. And the Eagles won the Super Bowl, beating the Patriots. So I have a couple Patriots Super Bowls in there. Like we have 28-3, the Malcolm Butler interception with Seattle. And then that one. So those are kind of my honorable mentions. They're not as important, but like in my time, they're huge sports moments. Villanova's last second shot to win the national championship basketball. That made my jaw drop. He was not even past half. He was right past half court, like 3 or 4 feet.
From Delaware.
He just sunk it.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. But I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And the place went berserk, but at the same time, it was silent. Nobody was expecting that. And so those are like the reason why I wanted to do this episode like this was I wanted us both to kind of share some moments that we have a little different than normal. We kind of always do the same thing sometimes. So switch it up and get you guys to hear kind of our sports iconic memories we remember.
Everybody that listens or anybody that follows sports has these moments.
Oh, yeah.
Has these moments where they made it fall in love with the sport, and it also makes it so you cry because of it.
Yeah.
And that is, as a sports fan, people will know. Like, and it's just one of those things where and that's why like sports to me is so important.
Yeah.
And like being a grandfather now, like I wasn't around when Austin was little.
Yeah.
To teach him sports or anything like that. Yeah. But with Xander, being a grandfather, I don't even care if he plays sports, to be 100% honest. Yeah. But I want to sit down and teach him. Yeah. And you do too.
Yeah,
like sit down and watch a football game with you and Xander, and you say, "This is what's going on here. This is what's going on there."
I want to see, even if he's a Lions fan, I don't care what he becomes. I want to see a touchdown in him, the joy in his eyes, to see his number 1 pick that he's been wanting since he was 12. Finally make it. Like,
and if he's in NASCAR and he picks a driver, and he watches it and he wins the Daytona,
I want to see his reaction.
And that's what, like, I just want to see that.
About.
And whether or not he's a sports fan and wants to do sports, but it's one of those things where we got Austin into fantasy football, and Austin watches football now. Now he doesn't know as much. He's still a novice technically. If you think about it, he's still a novice at football. And admittedly, so were you.
I was a few
because
years ago.
You only paid attention to the Cowboys.
Yeah. I know I talk about them a lot, but I do watch a lot of other teams now.
Yes,
and I never did that till this.
And that's one thing, like, to get that out of people.
Yeah.
Just to see, and I know our friend group, Nate, Logan, they live and breathe sports, and they know, like, they follow the Twitters, they follow the people all the time, and they have this information right away
at a premium.
And, but they, like, it's just something where, sports is life, and sports does bring people together.
It does.
It does create conversations in a room. It does make people become closer together, because I will tell you this. Our fantasy football league started, and me, Logan, Nate, Justin, and Chandler, original 5. Now we're all close, but technically it was sports that brought us close, and then it became a brotherhood. And now it's spread where we have 10 people in this league that have been in this league for 5 years now.
5-6 years now.
5-6 years now, and it's a brotherhood. We all care about each other. We're family.
And what's funny is it's not just the brotherhood of the group that brought together from football. It's what else this group brought out of it, right? So, like, there is a text message group of me, Austin, and Logan about NASCAR. Because we found out Logan's a NASCAR fan. He was like, does anybody watch NASCAR? And everybody in the group was like, nah, man, poo-poo on that, right? It's fine. And I texted him, was like, yo, I'm kind of getting into it. You a fan? So me and him started a group. And now Austin's in it. And we share stuff all day long. So now me and Logan are another group of that. And then, like, now you're developing these little subdivisions within the original friend group. And you're like, sports brings people together in a way no one would imagine, that non-sports fans think we're crazy.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Janine thinks we hate each other.
We absolutely
she doesn't understand how we can be so mean to each other and go off on each other.
That's what makes sports
about
fun.
Sports and about things. And she's like, you guys must hate each other. No, we actually will die for each other.
So you don't think Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith don't actually like each other? I bet they have drinks all the time.
It's just one of those things where for me, I live and breathe sports. I love sports. But it's became a thing where it's created lifelong friends, and not just here. I'm talking still people that I talk to this day that, you know, it's because of sports that really brought us closer together.
Yep. There's a lot of those. So, well, we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Obviously, this is a little bit different. I want to start thinking of some cool ideas every now and again to throw in that are just out of the blue during the off season like this, that just gets topics going. And when you guys hear this, listen to it and comment, please. I want to hear some more of yours. I think once, the normal guys listen to this, and girls too listen to this, they'll want to comment, because I want to know sports that brought you to your knees, moments that made your jaw drop.
I'd like to say, I'm going to shout out Joey here.
Yeah.
Joey, I want to know Philadelphia moments for you.
Yeah.
I want to know moments that, made you cry and made you elated. So, Joey, I'm calling you out on this one.
Calling you out, Joey. So with that, everybody,
have a good night.
Have a great night.